This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 796. Joined by a really special guest. Her name is Dani Klupenger. She's a sports journalist, reporter. She covers tennis. She's amazing out there. And also, she was a former D1 hooper. So we're going to get to that and other things that's in the sports right now. But first of all, Dani, how are you and your family doing? Thanks for joining the show. We finally made this happen. And like I said, you're truly one of the best out there when it comes to covering sports. And how are you guys? And you guys are located in California, right?
Yeah, so it's just me. I mean, my family is originally from Oregon, so they're all there. In fact, they actually get in tonight, so they're coming to spend Memorial Day weekend with me. But yeah, my boyfriend lives about an hour away from me here, but it's just me here in Newport Beach. But I love it here. I just don't think that there is a more beautiful place, especially in California. It's gorgeous. I feel spoiled every day to wake up and see the sand.
Yeah. So how's it over there with the protocols and all right now?
It's funny. I joked this entire pandemic that Orange County kind of lived in their own bubble because it was pretty much open the whole time in terms of the beach and things like that. Yes, you still have to wear a mask when you first walk into a restaurant, but a lot of the restaurants, the windows are open. So it's essentially like an indoor-outdoor scenario. So I don't know if they were breaking the law, but there definitely weren't too many laws being executed here in Orange County. But I am vaccinated now, so it feels very good to be able to travel, especially covering tennis overseas. It's a little bit more of a peace of mind walking around these days. And hopefully we're getting over the hump here.
So now I want to start off with your childhood growing up. Obviously you played basketball, but when did you start realizing that you wanted to be interested in sports and not only play sports but cover sports? And did you have like a role model growing up in the sports industry?
Oh man, great questions. Okay, well, let's start with when I first started playing sports, because I grew up in a family that loved sports. We always watched college football in particular. I grew up in Oregon, so we're a big Oregon State family. We don't like the Ducks, so you'll never or hardly ever see me wearing green for that reason. It still is deep inside me, but we grew up watching tons of football. I played soccer, I played softball, I played basketball, but I really just fell in love with basketball. And it was around high school that I dropped the rest of the sports and just sort of zoned in on that because I wanted to play at the next level. But it's funny because it wasn't like my family was full of college athletes or pro athletes by any means. Everybody played high school sports, but everybody just had an interest and a passion for it. We were a very active family. In terms of role models, in the sports world at the time, it was just, whoever was in the WNBA that I really liked. I was a big Tina Thompson fan. She wore lipstick when she would play. So I always wore makeup because it just I was like, she looks good playing. I want to look and feel good while I play as well. Cheryl Swoops I was a big fan of as well. And then when it comes to reporting and finding like the itch to want to cover sports, I would say that stems probably into high school when I realized that I'm kind of nosy, and I don't mean it in like a bad or negative way, but I want to know what's going on. So I was always asking people a ton of questions. I kind of went to high school. I grew up on a farm. So I went to high school 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So it was kind of like a brand new world for me. There were people that lived in the city. There were people from different backgrounds. There was more diversity. And I wanted to know what everybody came from. So I really asked a lot of questions. And that's where I kind of fell in love with getting to know people's stories and finding out where people came from. And then sports just seemed like the natural avenue to do that for me.
Yeah, since you like Oregon State, I have a question about that later on. So I'm going to ask.
Okay.
But so first of all, let me ask you about your playing career basketball wise, and obviously, what's the scouting report? What was the scouting report on Dani Klupenger? And obviously, you went to Stony Brook too. But what did you learn as a high school player playing basketball, getting ready for college?
Yeah, well, the scouting report for Dani was get a hand in her face because all she wanted to do was shoot threes. My license plate in high school was Dani 4-3.
Oh, wow.
Like it was. No secret, I wanted to shoot the long ball. Nobody had to worry about me banging down low whatsoever. But in high school, I grinded because I'm not naturally super athletic. I think I have to really work for it and I have to be smart. And that I used to go to I would go to fundamental practice with an AAU coach. Then we would go to regular high school practice. And then afterwards, we'd go to another AAU practice after that. It was a grind every single day. But I think that taught me a hard work ethic really early on. And that was easily translatable into the college space and beyond, to be honest. But I just think that getting involved in sports really teaches you at a young age to not only push yourself, but understand how to deal with adversity really young, because adversity is going to hit you so many times in the face as an adult that when you experience it young and maybe you handle it correctly or incorrectly, you learn from it. And I think that that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned through sports, especially going into college and beyond.
So for you, out of high school, how many offers did you get scholarship wise, and what made you choose Stony Brook?
Well, my recruiting process was a little different. The best player in the state was on my high school team. So she sort of got all of that recognition, as she was well-deserved. She was very, very talented. So my recruiting process was a little bit slower. I would say that it picked up a little bit here and there, but as far as like offers, Stony Brook was the first offer that I got, and I took it.
Oh, wow.
I had gotten a couple phone calls actually while I was on my visit at Stony Brook to maybe, try and steer me away from committing on that visit. But when I went out, I realized it's far. I'm from Oregon. Stony Brook is in New York. But I always knew I wanted to do broadcasting. And so where else better to go than LA or New York City, right? Mm-hmm. So although it was just outside of the city, they had a fantastic journalism program, and they actually offered me on the spot. And unlike, going back in time, knowing now how the process works, I was so naive to the process and how long you're supposed to wait or how long you can wait and how that whole process goes. But I felt good about it. I still feel good about it to this day, and I committed on the spot. So no regrets there. If you get to know me, you'll understand this, but anybody that does know me, definitely this would make sense. I, for some reason, wanted to be called out on senior night of my high school year with my college that I was going to go play for. So for me, it was, I needed to know by the time senior night came around what it was going to be, because I wanted that so badly to be called out. For no reason other than that's just in my head. I like fairy tales to work out how they're supposed to, but it worked out, and I loved Stony Brook.
You announced it during your senior year in high school, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. If you don't mind me asking, who was your high school teammate?
Her name was Kate Lands. So She went on to play at Oregon State for a couple years, and then that program sort of dismantled, and then she finished her career out at Portland State. But Oregon State, growing up a big fan, probably would have always been circled and highlighted on my list as the number one place I would have loved to go. But I'm proud of her, and we're still friends to this day. So.
Yeah. So what was it like playing at Stony Brook and playing in front of those fans? And obviously that college is growing and developing into a big program now. But for you, when you were there, what was it like?
We didn't win a lot of games. I think our biggest fans were family members. One of my best guy friends to this day, his name is Frank. He went to pretty much all of the women's games, and then the band. I mean, there weren't a ton of people there at our games. That's okay. I think women's basketball is still kind of fighting for bigger crowds, but we didn't win a lot. And honestly, looking back, if I was a regular student wanting to go to a game, I wouldn't want to go watch someone lose either. It was what it was. We had 3 head coaches in 4 years. Wow. It was tough. It was a grind. I'm just proud of myself for sticking it out all 4 years, because I think a lot of people in those situations would have left.
So did you get to play against Idaho throughout your career?
I never played Idaho. I didn't. We were more East Coast schools.
Oh, okay. Because my former co-host Alyssa Charleston played for Idaho. She was.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure you know her, right? Alyssa Charleston. She's
totally.
Yeah, she was my former co-host here on the show, and now she covers Gonzaga, and she has another big opportunity. But so I want to ask you though, did you ever think in your basketball career that I could have been in the WNBA or play in the WNBA? Because I feel like you just have to work all your 4 years, just keep working hard, keep grinding. But for you, did you ever think that?
It was never a goal for me, to be honest. Basketball was sort of my avenue to get through to college and get that paid for, and kind of help me set up the rest of my life. But it was never, I like going back even to high school basketball. It wasn't that I didn't idolize the people in the WNBA or that I didn't think I could make it. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. And I kind of knew that pretty early on. But I'm going to tell you something. So I'm covering WNBA games next week,
Oh, nice.
the Connecticut Sun, and I've never
Yeah.
covered a WNBA game, and I'm going as an analyst. And I'm so pumped because when I was 10 years old, I used to have like the WNBA on demand package or whatever came with the new satellite package that my dad had gotten. And this is like when I first learned what Excel sheets were, and I would print them out and I would stat the game, and I would write down all the fun facts about every player that happened. And I would just sit there and study them. Like, those women were my idols. So the fact that I get to go and cover them is like something I swear I manifested years and years and years ago. But it just was never a goal for me to play there. But now realizing that I'm going to cover it next week, to me, it's like, that was what the goal was. That was why I sat in front of the TV and watched those women so closely.
What a great team to cover right now. They're undefeated and they're playing great basketball. I love their team. Brittany Griner, obviously Diana Taurasi, and they have a great team out there in Connecticut. But so I want to ask you though, now transitioning into your reporter career, taking it to the process. How did that work out? And while you were playing basketball, did you get to cover any games in college?
So I didn't go to college all that long ago, but I went long ago enough that the video presence among college sports really wasn't there all that much. It was kind of a new idea. So my junior year, I went to our sports information department and I said, hey, I'm learning in my journalism classes how to shoot and edit. I want to create a weekly sports recap for our school website. Will you let me do it? And they were very hesitant at first because, I am a double major. I'm on the basketball team. I'm playing a lot. Is she really going to deliver this every single week? But I was really determined to make that happen. So they finally said yes after a lot of begging. His name is Tom Chen, and he's at Seton Hall, and he is a rock star still to this day, because that was my start. And I would shoot and edit different features on different teams throughout the school. So whether that was going and learning how to play lacrosse or going and learning how to kick field goals, we did little features every single week. I shot it, I edited it, I hosted it. And by my senior year, someone from the University of Tennessee, who happened to be an alum of Stony Brook, I had never met him, but he called and asked about me. Oh, wow. And it was right when the SEC network was about to start. So Tennessee was gearing up for the launch of that network, and they wanted to bring in a full-time reporter that could also shoot and also edit and cover all the sports. So it kind of just fell in my lap, and they asked me if I wanted to move to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I said, I sure do. So I got to do, SEC network stuff and cover Tennessee sports for 2 years right out of college, which was, a lot of people and a lot of professors and a lot of people in general have a hard time believing that I could get on camera right away that quickly, but I worked hard for it. And the right opportunity fell in my lap, which was great.
All right, I want to correct myself. I meant to say Diana Taurasi with the Phoenix Mercury, and
it's okay. I didn't want to call you out on that because it just they move around so much. I did not want to call you out.
I was thinking of it gets me mixed up because the Phoenix Suns is there too. So, but now though you're a big time reporter covering tennis, and obviously what's the experience been like for you covering the game of tennis? Obviously, that's one of my other favorite sports to watch when it comes to the tournaments, and you obviously covered this year's tournament. But before we get to that, throughout the years when you started covering tennis, what's the experience been like for you?
Well, it's interesting because tennis is new for me. I covered a little bit of college tennis at Tennessee, but little bit. It was mostly very hardcore basketball, baseball, football, and all of that at Tennessee. Then I covered the NFL for 4 or 5 years. But in the meantime of I worked for the St. Louis Rams, and then we moved to LA. Oh, excuse me. Then we moved to LA. And when I first moved here, I auditioned for Tennis Channel in a very, very small role, and I got it. And that was 4 years ago now. And that was just to do these recaps. Actually, I still do them. They're called court reports. They're pre-recorded. They just recap the tennis news, essentially what had happened in the day. And I would go just a couple times a month. And then about 2 years ago, they contacted me to increase my role more and do some sort of, it's called single hosting, but it's essentially like the red zone of Tennis Channel. So when they're on all these different countries, it's just my voice kind of directing the traffic. Hey, well, let's go check in Dubai now, because this is what's happening here. Okay, now let's go to Lyon. It's directing traffic. It's learning the sport more. It's speaking the language. The hours are really early in the morning. I'm talking I think my call times were like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's in the middle of the night. But I worked really hard at it and got to learn more and more about the sport, a sport I've never played before. Asked a lot of questions. And this year they brought me in for another audition, and now I'm hosting the desk at all Masters 1000 tournaments, which has just been unbelievable. And I do it alongside Prakash Amatraj, whose dad was a former top 10 or top 5 player in the world. He himself was a great tennis player as well, a national champion for USC. And him and I have such great chemistry. It just worked right off the bat. We have so much fun together. I can pick on him. On air, which, a lot of people get a little too rigid, but we just have a great time up there. And it's really made the experience very, very fun. And I still am pinching myself. I got sent in the middle of the pandemic to Monte Carlo, to Madrid, to Rome. Like that's mind blowing to me. And it's just been such a fun assignment.
Wow. Yeah. And so obviously it's always good to get a lot of experience. So for you, what's it been like covering football, basketball, and even now tennis and baseball, and getting to learn all these athletes' personalities on the field, off the field? What's that been like, just to get experience with each sport?
It's my favorite part of what I do. I don't think I could just cover one sport. It's so fun to have the variety, because every sport is different. Every way that someone got to that sport and found that sport is different. Everybody's athletic and probably could play each other's sports, but there was a reason they stuck with that specific one, right? And it's been so fun to get to know the athletes from different backgrounds. Like I said, it's what makes reporting so fun. It's those moments even before the camera starts rolling where they come and they sit down and you're just chit-chatting about family, about what they had for dinner, their favorite restaurants around town, or like what they're doing in their spare time. It's those moments where you're just like, hey, these people are human. And although to a lot of people they're superhuman, right? They're unbelievable, and we're just such fans of them. But then when you get to know them, they're so down to earth. So I just feel like it's a big responsibility for me as a reporter to make sure that their fans feel connected to them, because they are so similar,
Yeah. So I want to ask you about this tournament. You just came back from overseas. What was the coverage like there, watching the top tennis players in the world, and not only male, females too, like Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Maria Sharapova, and other great tennis players, and also Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer. What's it like covering these talented tennis players?
Yeah, Maria Sharapova's retired, so she's had a great career. I actually got to do a Nike event with her once. She's fantastic. Serena and Venus haven't had as much success recently, so they haven't come across my desk. It's such a bummer, because this is new for me. So these are my first few tournaments out, and Venus lost in her first round in Miami, so she didn't come across the desk because we interview the winners. And Serena lost in her first round in Rome, so we didn't get to talk to her either, which was just so I wore my favorite blazer. Like I was so ready to get to finally meet them, because I just admire them so much. But we've had Rafael Nadal at the desk, we've had Novak Djokovic there, both of them just such stand-up guys. I mean, they come there, that everybody wants a little piece of them, and they give us their undivided attention, their time. And it's so cool to just pick their brain. I mean, Novak sat down the other day at Tennis Channel and just kicked back, relaxed, sat with us for about 15, 20 minutes. He was talking about Kobe. He was talking about basketball. His interests are so varied that it was really fun to just get to know these guys. And now traveling during a pandemic
Yeah.
is it's so interesting, Monte Carlo, we couldn't leave the hotel room. So we would go straight to the tournament, work, and go straight back to the hotel. And that was it. We could not leave. France was on lockdown at the time. And then Madrid, same deal. The rules were very, very strict. They had fans in attendance, but we couldn't leave the hotel room or do anything other than go to work and go back. So that was a little bizarre. It's especially bizarre when I've never been to these places before, and I'd love to explore in the evenings when we have time. But Rome, we were allowed to walk around for 2 hours a day. So that was really nice, but also very bizarre in and of itself because there's just no people around. There's nobody to there's just not as many tourists as you're used to. So you get to go to the Trevi Fountain and no one's there. It's just nuts.
So for you, how did you adjust traveling from places to places? And obviously the time difference is a big thing for you. And obviously sleep is important, but how did you adjust when you got there? And then obviously you got used to it by staying there for a long time with the tournaments.
Yeah, the time adjustment, it takes a moment. I try really hard to plan it out like a day before I even leave America. And then plan like when I'm going to sleep on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I do take ZQL to try and make sure that I knock out when I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
But I stay awake when I get there, fall asleep at the correct time of night, just to try and get used to it as quickly as you can. But you're always kind of thrown off. I think Madrid, I was up at like 2, 3 a.m. And it's hard on relationships and family and wanting to check in and tell everybody about all the exciting things that you've got to do that day. But the time difference is tough, where you're catching them in the morning when they're first waking up, or they're catching you as you're going to bed. That makes it a little difficult. But I mean, I tell everybody this, I cannot complain. Like, I get to go to other countries to work, and cover, and by work, I'm talking about sports. There's literally no complaints on this end. It just is what it is. Get through it. You can sleep later in life.
So overall, though, what would you say you experienced overseas was this with this tournament? Obviously, it says you're new to the tennis world, but overall, how did you like it? What was the experience like, and did it over exceed your expectation?
Just this past one that I got back from, I was just in Rome, the Foro Italico. It's an absolutely beautiful club. And we had an amazing setup right on top of the roof of the players lounge. We could go downstairs, we could eat. These places are gorgeous. And the people that put all the work in behind the scenes to make us super comfortable there is really amazing. Now I'm looking forward to, like, right now, I don't do the interviews with the players. It's just Prakash. And that's because of the protocols. They have to be 6 feet apart. So only 2 people fit at the desk for 6 feet apart. So because he's a former player, he's going to interview the current players. So I'm excited for when those restrictions lift and I can be a third person at that desk and be closer to the athlete and be able to actually interview them on camera. That's been a bummer. You're so close, but the updates and stuff with Prakash have been so fun. I cannot wait. I'm off the road now for tennis, at least for the next like 2.5 months. And I am already itching to get back going.
So now switching gears to the WNBA, obviously you say you're going to cover the Connecticut Sun here. What are you most looking forward to when you cover them, and when you get to now you can I think you can interview these players now. But what's it going to be like when you go to the stadium, or not say, or you're going to cover from home, right?
No, I'm actually going to Connecticut.
All right.
Yeah, so we're staying at the Mohegan Sun. I'm actually about to lock in and watch some games here as soon as we wrap up here and just start my prep. But I'm pumped. Like, this is, like I said, a dream come true for the 10-year-old girl that would sit in front of the TV and just write down all the notes she could about these women. I think that right now the attention's on this league and trying to, get the hype up around them. And it's true. They've worked so hard to get here. They should have viewers, and I'm excited to go and cover them. I'm pumped because the play-by-play guy that I'm working with, I've worked with in the past, covering college basketball. And so I'm familiar with him. We have a very talented sideline reporter who I haven't officially met yet, but I have watched her work, and I'm very excited to be able to work with her. I mean, It's a dream come true, honestly. As a former Division I basketball player and a person that's always wanted to cover just sports in general, the WNBA, anytime we get to cover a professional league, it's amazing. But the WNBA for me is a soft spot. I can't wait.
Yeah. So also now, important topic that everyone should be talking about: women in sports. And I'm a big advocate in women in sports, obviously. And I had a couple of WNBA personalities on the show too, like Renee Montgomery. I had on the show Coach Nikki Collin. I had I had the Chicago Sky coach on recently before the season started, James Wade. And what's it like seeing the growth in women in sports, and like Becky Hammond being in the NBA assistant coach, Sarah Thomas, the first female ref, Sarah Fuller, the first female field goal kicker, Kim Nang, first female GM in baseball. What's it like seeing the growth of women in sports?
It's amazing. It's really amazing. It almost leaves me speechless because I know there's this stigma about, so many men in sports, the men's world, they won't let you crack it. I've never experienced that personally. While I've experienced men in not the greatest lights at times, most of my experiences have been phenomenal. There are people that are cheering me on. There are people that are giving me inside information so that I can, excel my career faster. There are people that are looking out for me that still to this day, like I can reach out to and ask a question for, or if I needed an interview for something, I would feel totally comfortable reaching out. Like, I think that men in this business get such a bad rap for that. Whereas I don't think, that's why I love watching these NBA players walk in with these WNBA shirts and different, or whether it's soccer or whatever it is, supporting women, because these guys have been supporting us this whole time. It's just now we're going to publicly show it, right? Because it seems to be hidden. But I'm proud of these women. Like, it's hard to go into a room full of men and demand a bigger role, a bigger raise, more work assignments, things like that. It's tough. And then women, we're naturally like a little bit emotional, right? There's been moments where I walked in with so much fire and passion to want to take my job to the next level that I worked myself so much up that I realize the waterworks are coming and I'm like, I got to suck these back in. But like, to know that there's women that are making such strides in that space, how cool. Sarah Fuller getting to play football. Come on, girlfriend. That's amazing. Like, I just am so excited for the future of women in sports. And I think that it'll stop being so much women in sports and just people in sports here soon, because there shouldn't be that big of a divide. Women are just as capable of men, if not more capable. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and there's room for everyone. I really think so.
So what advice would you give to these young girls that are trying to get to that are trying to get to their dreams and trying to achieve it?
I would say get to know a lot of things about a lot of different subjects. I don't think I would have ever gotten to where I am in my career had I not known how to shoot and edit on different softwares and know how to use different cameras. My first few jobs, even my first job in the NFL, I was still editing highlights for TV shows and things like that. While I was primarily a reporter, I still needed to help out in other ways. And it just makes yourself a more well-rounded candidate for these jobs. I also think that while the mentality is like, push forward, let's do it, like, let's by any means necessary, I also think that keeping relationships are so important, and that you've got to be careful about the information that you have and know and understand how to use it. I think that you can burn bridges really quickly, especially these days with this cancel culture. I think making sure you foster relationships, you genuinely care about other people, and you show them kindness. And I think that will help you continue to climb your way into this path. And I honestly think women can do anything. You want to coach. If you want to talk about sports, talk about sports. You know what I mean? If you want to be an analyst for a football game, go be an analyst for a football game. There are so many opportunities out there. Just go find it. Ask a ton of questions. Learn as much as you can. If you fall on your face, it's okay. Maybe there's 5 viewers on whatever you're currently putting out there in the world. Who cares? You're getting better. You're able to fall on your face, say something incorrect, and no one noticed. No big deal. By the time that it's the real deal, you're going to be so much more seasoned. So and I just think what an opportunity for, I want to be young again and start over, because like, there's just so much that I've learned, and I'm excited for this younger generation to just be able to utilize all of the things at their fingertips and be able to go way beyond anything I have ever done or will do.
Yeah. So before I let you go, we do this fun little segment called the rapid fire segment. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. So I know you watched all the Oregon State games, right, this year in college football, or last year?
Not all of them, no, but
right.
I've watched a decent amount.
Because I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan, and everybody does not know of this guy Nashawn Wright, defensive back, and I'm sure you know him. And I watched him play, and no, everybody thinks this guy's gonna be a bust, but I think he's gonna be a great player. I'm seeing a lot of great things out of OTAs right now for them. And what do you think of a guy like Nashawn Wright coming to Dallas?
I mean, he's played a lot. You know, he's got experience under his belt, and he's also played on a team that's had to grind. Who doesn't want a grinder on their team? You know what I mean? I mean, it's these guys that come from these programs that are not the tip of the top, like the prime programs. It's those guys that had to work hard to just even get into a camp, get into an OTA. Now is their time to shine. You know, and I actually have Ryan Nall's jersey on my wall right over here, but he played at Oregon State, was running back, and now is on the Chicago Bears. And he's had a grind. They didn't win hardly any games when Ryan was in college, but he works these guys just learn how to work so hard in the face of adversity. And this program has started to, like, you know, inch their way a little bit better, you know, and that is due to the hard work of the players. Yeah, it's great on the coaching staff, but if you don't have players that are going to work hard for you and improve, like, so for Wright to be on a team that was just inclining like that, I think he'd be a perfect candidate for the NFL. Why not?
So I see you have a Johnson jersey, Jones, and Westbrook, James, and then Westbrook. No, Webster. Sorry, Webster.
Webster, yeah.
So so who was your favorite NFL team?
Whew, loaded question. Okay, so I worked for the Rams, but I also covered the Seahawks. I love both of those programs. I probably lean towards more of a Seahawks fan. I just really enjoyed working around that program. They were great. But just because I've covered so many NFL athletes, now I'm just fans of people. You know, like I love turning on the TV and seeing someone that had moved from LA to a different team, and now they're having even a bigger role or still being successful. I just love watching people that, you know, had a good experience with and see them succeed. So I'm just like a fan of people. That makes any sense.
No, that's a good thing, because now you're a reporter, so you guys say everyone.
True.
But I'm going to put you on the spot here. Top 5 male tennis players of all time and top 5 female tennis players of all time.
Of all time? I don't even know if I can answer that question.
Or current. How about current?
I just feel like people are so passionate in the tennis world that I would just be stirring the pot on that question. I think Novak Djokovic, no particular order, Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Andy Murray, Pete Sampras, those guys. I'm sure I'm missing some. Like, there's just been so many phenomenal tennis players, but I think right now we're at a spot in our history where we are witnessing 3 of the best players of all time on the men's side. On the women's side, I don't think you can even have a conversation not surrounding Venus and Serena. I mean, they're unbelievable. And while Serena is getting all the attention as well, Venus is the one that paved the way. And I think a lot of people forget about that. And she's phenomenal. Now, I am only watching current tennis right at the moment. I got to tell you, Ash Barty, who's currently the world #1, she's got a whole nother level of toughness in her. I work with Tracy Austin. I would throw her up on that list. Steffi Graf. I mean, these women are phenomenal tennis players. Lindsay Davenport, Shanda Rubin. I work with some amazing tennis players. Chris Evert. That list is hard. That list is very hard for me. I think it's a little bit easier when you talk about the men's side, but the women's side, that's tough, because it's just a lot of it's generational too. And it's how they're playing now versus then. And that's constantly a subject on Tennis Channel that we talk about all the time, is who's the best in their time, in their moment, and how would they, you know, it's kind of like that whole Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James conversation. It's generational.
I mean, if you want to go way, way, way back, I would say Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean King.
Yeah.
In fact, I got to interview her. She's amazing. That's
wow.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought her up. Absolutely. She's in that mix too. She's obviously, I mean, one of the greatest of all time. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got to interview her, huh?
Yeah, I did. It was pretty cool. It was actually one of my first, it was 2 years ago. It was before I even had the assignment to go on these tournaments. It was like the first tournament I had ever covered. It was a small junior tournament in San Diego, and I drove down for the day and she was there and we got to interview her, and it was so cool to me, especially like I said, I am not going to lie and sit here and say that I've been a tennis player my whole life, but I've learned to love it. I've learned to understand the sport. I've learned to learn the history. I'm asking a lot of questions. And then I get to meet people like her that was such a pioneer, not only in tennis, but just in women in the sports world in general, was pretty cool.
Favorite memorable game that you played in college?
My senior night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. I probably had 5 threes. My entire family flew up from Oregon. Everyone was there with signs and everything. It was just like really, it was a special night. It was a night that it should be, and it played out exactly as I had hoped.
Funniest teammate?
Oh, my funniest teammate. Oh man. Let's see. Probably Taylor Burner used to make me laugh a lot. She's funny.
Funniest person that you work with right now?
Panda. He's our producer, so he's always in my ear and he's always making me laugh. His name is Ian, but we call him Panda. He's like a big panda bear.
Thoughts on the NBA playoffs so far?
Go Blazers. That's my thoughts. Yeah. Oh yeah, growing up in Portland, come on Blazers, let's do it. I live around all these Lakers fans, all these Clippers fans. Let's go Blazers, please. Like, let's just knock out Denver. It's a tough task, but let's try it.
I'm a New York Knicks fan.
So. Oh, look, there you go.
Back in it.
Yep, back in it. Man, you had to take quite a long rest, but now you're back.
Yeah. So before I get to the last 2 things, I want to ask you though, when you get to Connecticut down there, for covering the Sun, what will be the first thing that you do when you arrive to the stadium?
First thing that I'll do, I will already have all my notes and everything done. Because I like to have everything done probably even before I get on the plane. Maybe there'll be a little bit of researching on the plane, but I just like to be prepared and have that stress of that out of the way. So once I get there, I'll probably just say hi to the play-by-play guy, and then just start to maybe identify who's who in person. It's one thing to watch people on a TV screen. It's a whole nother thing to see them in person. And then we'll tape our open probably, because I think that the lights are turned off, so that we can't do it live, because I think the lights are turned off for the starting lineup. So that we'll tape that pretty early. And then once the game's about to tip off, we'll just go to work. I mean, that's the easy part, right? It's all the prep work that goes in before the game. It's game days when it's easy.
I haven't asked this in a while. Kawhi Leonard's laugh or Kevin Hart's laugh?
Oh, Kevin Hart. I've met Kevin Hart. He's hilarious. He used to do a lot of stuff for the Rams. And I'm telling you, that guy is just naturally hilarious. Like, doesn't even have to try, doesn't have to plan it. It just comes to him like no big deal.
Yeah. So before we get to the last 2 things, if you had the chance to eat lunch or dinner with, who would it be? Anybody.
Are we talking about athletes?
Yeah, or anything, anybody.
Which athlete would I love to meet? That's a tough question. Oh man. I would probably want to sit down with Tom Brady.
Okay.
I would like to understand like how he stays so young. I know that there's all those articles about it, but it's, I think, another thing when you get a one-on-one to just sit and chat and chill and relax and talk to somebody and really, I think if given the chance, I think you'd have to take advantage of getting to talk to one of the greatest athletes of all time.
So the last 2 things here, our team is part of this foundation called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. Now he's the offensive coordinator at Tennessee State with Eddie George. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe, kids stay safe. And I'm going to send you the page. You can go check it out. And we're really grateful to be part of the foundation. And the last thing here, what do you like to say? Anything to all the nurses, doctors, and essential workers right now?
Yes, my mom's a nurse,
Oh,
and
wow.
she's worked so hard during this pandemic, and I can see the stress that it takes on her, and I can only imagine the other people that are on the front lines. I am in awe of what they can do, and I am in awe of how selfless they are for other people, and understanding that they're coming to work every single day to possibly put themselves and their lives on the line, but to save other people. And that level of selflessness is truly unbelievable. You'd like to think that you grew up with that level of selflessness, but these people actually have to prove it. And it's been unbelievable to see how, especially just them as coworkers, have, come together and had each other's backs. I know my mom stayed later at times when she didn't need to, just because everybody was so overwhelmed, not getting paid for that extra time, but just wanting to stay after and help, because it was just so crazy. And it truly almost makes me speechless, because I'm in awe of those people that put themselves on the line for other people's lives. It's truly unbelievable. And I know a lot of it was new to them, and they were learning along the way. And that's so stressful. And I just thank all of them very much. And also for the huge, for your cause that you were talking about. One of my good friends, Brandon Fisher, who is Coach Fisher's son, is actually going to be on that Tennessee State staff.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
very excited to watch how they do. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a small world, huh?
Yeah.
But well said. And tell your mom I said thank you for her service. And that
Mhm.
it really truly means a lot when it comes
I
to
know.
you guys. They deserve a lot of notice right now, and they're the real MVPs. And I just want to say thank you again, Dani Klupenger, for joining the show. Everyone, this wraps up episode 796 with former D1 Hooper, and now she's a sports journalist reporter, Dani Klupenger again. Thank you again. Go follow her stuff. She's amazing, inspiring, hard. She's a hard worker, and good luck with the coverage with the Connecticut Sun. And
Thank you.
we would like to have you back on the show one day so you can meet the full team. But keep it up, and you know, for having me stay safe.
I would love it. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, nearly 800 episodes. That's pretty impressive. Good for you.
Thank you. All right.